vehicle tracking system can help fleet managers to deal with these challenges because if we see in details, VTS collect numerous trip informations. So first of all, when ignition of a vehicle is started, we collect, of course, we have the vehicle name on a license plate, for example. We can have the driver identified on the vehicle. There is a driver identification used with an RFID card, for example. And when the ignition is on, we have the date and time of the starting location and starting mileage of the vehicle. Then the VTS will, of course, record the different position during the trip with still the date and time and location of different position. If there is a stop with the motor engine which is still on, it can also record the idling duration. And then the trip continue until the ignition off of the vehicle. So here we have again the date and time and ending location and ending mileage, which have been recorded by the VTS. And at the end, it can be all this data can be aggregated to produce general trip information. So with the vehicle and driver ID, the distance driven in kilometers, the duration of the trips. We can have also the details of driving and idling times, and the trip nature, duty and private. I will say more about this because it's not directly collected by the VTS, but it can be deducted by the system. So just to summarize, VTS collect numerous trip information, and you can see that this information are close to the driver logbook information. So it can really help to fleet managers to check the driver logbooks. Because all the trips are recorded by the VTS and aggregated, and it's then recorded into the database and displayed in the fleet management platform, like Humana, for example. So here I will do a focus on what can be useful into Humanav with a trip logbook check module we can propose. So this module have been developed and designed based on Humanav user feedbacks. And as mentioned, it automatically records and displays the trips. You can also have use the filters of the platform. For example, you want to check all the logbooks of the previous week. You can select this week. You can also select, for example, I would like to do a focus just on this vehicle or just on this driver. So you can display all the selected information. So you can customize the module and to display only the trips you are interested in. Then you have also the possibility to do an extract with an Excel sheet with all this information which are displayed in an Excel file. It can be useful for calculation or analysis or recording of the trip on storage. Just to focus, for each trip, the following driver logbook information are displayed. First of all, as I mentioned previously, the timestamp, start and end location of a trip. So if we can display the street and city names if the vehicle is not in a zone. If there is a geofencing used into the platform, we can display also the zones. For example, the office of departure, and if the arrival is in a settlement, for example, it can be this settlement. So either the zone, either the street on city names. For sure, we will display. We'll have to check. I can't switch on the slide after. Yeah, okay. For sure, it display the vehicle license plate, the driver, and the trip nature. So trip nature can be qualified automatically or manually. I will explain it just after. And at the end, it calculates for each trip, so the kilometers driven, driving and idling duration, on trip cost, because it can also calculate the trip cost. I will also explain it just after in this slide. So the trip nature configuration can be based on weekdays on business hours. So you configure that if a trip is done at 10 a.m. On Monday, it's a business trip. If it's at 8 p.m., it should be a private trip. And after, you still have the possibility to configure and to change manually the nature of the trip. Then the trip cost configuration. You can also calculate for each trip an estimated cost, which will be based on kilometers driven and the cost per hour, especially due to the cost for the driver. So you configure it, and at the end, it calculates you the estimated trip cost based on this information. So concretely, what are concrete benefits for a fleet manager? So it can give you a global and reliable overview of driver logbooks. So as mentioned, all the trips are automatically recorded, so it's neutral and accurate trip data information. It's a basis of exchanges with driver. So if you want to sensibilize driver about the importance of driver logbooks completion, it's a really good tool to review with drivers the trips and to see if there are mistakes which have been done on the driver logbook paper. Then it's really time savings. Organizations which are using it mention it because it's a fast and easy check of driver logbook information. And you can also use the possibility to export the data selected in an Excel file as a basis for driver logbook consolidation, because instead of entering manually all the driver log information, you can use this file as a basis and then check with the papers also that it's consistent, and use this file as a basis for the consolidation. We identify also areas of improvement for tomorrow for this kind of logbook trip feature. First of all, we can add also in the future the trip purpose, because we know that you have several different kind of missions. So it could indicate the field mission, or if it's an airport pickup. So the objective of the trips, but also the project code can be useful, because we know that uh, humanitarian organizations frequently need to allocate each trip to dedicated project budget. So it's for cost allocation. So we could enter trip purpose, but also the project or budget code. And also we have several areas of improvement regarding the fuel part. Either as we calculate the estimated trip cost, we could calculate an estimated fuel consumption or cost of the trip based on theoretical fuel consumption. So driving and idling, we can calculate, okay, we estimate that this trip of 100 kilometers consumed 10 liters of fuel, and it's this amount of money. Or we can also have a more accurate fuel recordings. So if we catch the fuel events with the driver with an app, driver can enter during the trip. Okay, I took this amount of fuel. Then it's in the fleet management system, and it can be allocated to this trip also, and complete the current features. So either manually by the driver, or either with a fuel sensor. In that case, it would be automatic. So we can say, okay, this day at this time, the driver took 50 liters for these vehicles with this amount of money calculated after. So thank you for listening. And then if you have questions, I will be happy to answer to these questions. If I can move on the next slide. I can't move on the next slide. But the next slide is to ask if there are questions. So it's okay.
see. Ooh la la. Pierre, can you hear me?
Yes, perfect. Thank you, Rose.
Okay, so it seems that we have a little bit of a technical issue with the whole system, but we have a question from Simon from OECE, who
Okay.
is saying that OECE has a VTS and fleet management system. We also automatically populate odometer and fuel consumption from the VTS to the FMS every week. But we are now wondering if we really need both systems. Could we do without the FMS? What is your view?
Here it would be up to the organization. You can also use both, or we can also imagine data exchange between both. You need to for example, odometer on fuel consumption. If you enter it in fleet management system, we can also imagine to collect it into the VTS system. So indeed, I think it's complementary, both system. You can also use it for the maintenance part, the FMS system, or either human have. It's up to organizations, but indeed, it can be complementary, and we can imagine a lot of evolution for the future between both systems, indeed.
Okay, then we have a question
And I
from
will be
Carl.
happy to discuss it into details for sure.
We have a question from Carl from FAO. With the current digital logbook for drivers, would you still need to maintain the traditional paper logbooks to ensure complete mileage recording?
Yeah, yes, for sure. At the end, we target full digitalization of logbook because we know that the paper logbooks it's time consuming. There are mistakes, and for sure, the goal at the end is to automatize and digitalize the logbook, driver logbook, and for sure in the future we will complete this kind of feature, and especially we can imagine also to collect the driver signature directly in the application, either in the office with the system. So for sure, at the end, we can imagine a complete digital logbook without any paper, but
Okay.
not on the really short term, as I displayed to you. Here, for this first step, I talk for CLS. Here, it's to provide a tool for fleet manager to have a logbook check, first of all. But at the end, indeed, we target a full digitization of logbook.
Okay, thanks. And that would then also require drivers to have access, right, on either on a mobile phone or on a tablet to
Yes.
be able to, and that's something that needs to be taken into account into budgeting of organizations, I
Yeah,
would say.
but if we involve the driver for fuel catch event, for example, by entering the amount of fuel on the cost of fuel, we can also imagine to introduce a picture of the receipt to be sure that the receipt won't be lost after the paper receipt. So for sure, after when we start with this step, we can also add the signature on but it has to be in steps, I guess.
Okay. Talking about fuel consumption, so Farai from MSF Belgium in South Sudan is asking, like, on the fuel consumption calculation, are there plans to improve the software by fitting fuel level sensors? In my opinion, the data can still be manipulated by the person doing the entries.
Yeah, indeed. It can be complementary. You can say, okay, we continue to capture the fuel events with declaration of the driver with the receipt, or either with manual entries. But at the same time, we would like to install a fuel sensor, and we can compare the automatically collected information by the sensor of fuel with the driver declaration for sure. So the same, you can start it in a simple way to digitalize the fuel events with receipts. And at the end, you can also have a more accurate solution, I would say, with fuel sensor. And here you are sure that the fuel sensor can collect automatically all the events.
Okay. Here, and I like, therefore I like your question. Is it planned to be able to enter the number of passengers per trip? This would be useful for calculating the occupancy rate.
Mhm. Yeah, really good question. Indeed, if especially if we talk about fleet sharing, it can be useful to enter the number of people by trip, and it's even on the current way of working. At the end, if we enter the trip purpose on the budget code tomorrow, we can indeed enter the number of passengers because we also on a fleet management platform like Humanav, you can describe what are the number of seats of the vehicles. So if you say, okay, there are 4 passenger seats for these vehicles, which is configured into the platform, then you see, okay, for this trip there is 2 passengers plus driver, so the occupancy rate was 75%. So it can be calculated automatically. So really good question and interesting areas for improvement. I forgot this one. Thank you.
Okay, let me see. I see that there's some exchanging of contact details going on, so that's great. That's also part of being part of the Fleet Forum community, right? To learn from each other and
Yeah,
to look at, okay, how can we work together to solve issues. I'm checking the, I see that somebody is typing, and let's wait for, I hope that there is a good question. And therefore, like I said, I really like your question because that will help us as organizations also to reduce the number of vehicles that we need, right? And by doing that, then also reduce the number of emissions that we are emitting, because it allows you to fill up your cars and to look into opportunities of vehicle sharing. So I really like that. I still see somebody is typing. um, I hope that was not Davor who was saying thank you, but
thank you.
if to everyone on the webinar, if you have more questions around how digital driver logbooks can help you and can help your organization in improving their fleet management, feel free to write your questions in the chat. So we can display them, and Pierre will have the opportunity to answer. Um, let me see if I didn't skip any questions so far. I see that Simon, that was probably related to the question of Carl about asking, okay, can we now get rid of the paper logbooks? And Simon from OSCE was saying that some of his field offices are using digital only. So I think that's a good sign as well, especially because using all that paper is not so good for the environment. Okay, so we have a question from Theo or Lexon, I think Theo, and I will display it. And he's asking, how can we access the digital vehicle logbook?
So here I will talk for Humanav. It's integrated into Humanav. So if you use the classic VTS system with a basic fixture, you can have access to an additional fleet management module, which is complementary of the tracking module. And then you have access to this trip logbook check module. And it's you can configure the user who have access to it in order to you can limitate for example this module to the fleet manager. I didn't mention it, but you have also a validation process on the module. If you say, okay, I check the trips of last week, then in the platform I mentioned that okay, this trip has been checked and it's validated and it's flagged as validated. and then you can display only the trips which are not validated yet, and yeah, but it can be yeah, displayed only for the fleet manager, for example.
Okay, thanks, Pierre. I think we have one more question. Kondwani, who's asking if the logbook can be customized for organizations' requirements, like, for example, adding vehicle request module. And Kondwani, I hope I sort of interpret that correctly, that the vehicle request module would be something like a journey, like a booking module, right? Where you can book your trip as a user. That's what I would.
I guess yes, because it's not 100% clear for me. Uh, but yes, okay. She
Yeah,
said yes.
yeah,
Yes, for sure, it can be complementary. VKL request module can be proposed in addition of this logbook check feature. And about customization, it can be for sure. You can, especially if you use the filters, you can customize the way to display logbook per user, for example, and you can have favorite filters. So if you want to say, okay, I am the fleet manager of this office in the country, I would like to see only the vehicles of the country office, of this city office, sorry. Just my vehicles I manage. You can display it automatically when you connect to the module. So it's the first way to customize it, but after for advanced customization, it can be for sure discussed.
yeah. Okay, okay. Let me see. One more, just to. Here one of the major concerns with using tracking systems in general, I think, in risk security context location is that security can be breached by outsiders who can access the system. Any measures to protect from this?
Okay, so here I guess we talk about the data storage and access security. In that case, for sure, it's secured, and only the users which have the rights to access to it can access to the system. And what I can say is that it's for sure it's a secured storage with high level of security in dedicated database. And I don't know if it's the questions.
I think the question is, especially, and that's a concern that we hear from organizations, and it's related in general, I think, to tracking systems is, okay, so what if my vehicles are tracked, but if we have a security breach and other people, entities can access the data, then they also know where we are with our vehicles. So I think it's more about that.
Okay. We can have a really high level of security if needed, even for communication of the VTS with the database on the platform. We can have encrypted data if needed. We can propose it. So even if someone hack the system without the key to decrypt the data, it's impossible. So for this part, it's a really high level of security. And after, all the data center and platform are certified with a higher standard of data safety.
Okay. It is 12:30. Thanks a lot, Pierre, for this presentation on how digitalization can support, well, and specifically digitalization of driver logbooks can help organizations and can help fleet managers. I would like to thank everybody on the call for your active participation. I hope it was useful to you, and I hope to see you next Wednesday when we will have a new webinar again. Unfortunately, I didn't manage to fix the recording, so I will discuss with Pierre what we can do about that. But in any case, feel free to reach out to us if you have further questions. We can always sort of guide you and point you into the right direction. So with that said, enjoy the rest of your day and hope to see you soon. Bye bye.
Thanks a lot. See you soon. Have a good day, everyone. Bye bye.